Castro has announced that he is running for president. Our contributor says the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development has some questions to answer from his time at HUD. Here's Cydney Walker from Coffee and Politics 101 with My Voice, My Opinion.
Many cities across the state of Texas have had issues with HUD funds. It isn't just Dallas that had audits regarding how HUD dollars were spent. San Antonio, Fort Worth, and the city of Benton Harbor in Arkansas have all had issues with audits or returning money to the feds. Julián Castro has announced he is running for president on the Democratic ticket. Some people are excited about his announcement, but many of my fellow Dallasites still have questions around the audit that seem to not care about the findings or lack of findings while he was Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. I cannot say Julián was directly involved, but there is an elephant in the room that needs addressing. We have to start asking the hard, uncomfortable questions and hold candidates and elected officials' feet to the fire. We are no longer in a position to think people will do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. I'm Cydney Walker, and this is My Voice, My Opinion.